Hey everybody, Alex Kazora, SteelersDepot.com with a preview and prediction of the Steelers Week 10 contest against the Detroit Lions. Pittsburgh coming into this game 5-3, Detroit 0-8. If Pittsburgh can get a win this weekend, they will move into first place in the AFC North and overtake the Baltimore Ravens. Let's outline how Pittsburgh can do that this weekend. Starting with the Lions offense, and obviously it's a unit and a team across the board struggling. Detroit's one of the worst offenses in football. They've only scored more than 20 points in a game once this season, and that was in week one against the 49ers with a really kind of late comeback in that one. So obviously they're struggling across the board. The two biggest weapons to watch out for are going to be some of the underneath guys, running back DeAndre Swift and tight end TJ Hawkinson. Detroit has arguably the weakest wide receiver group in football, but Hawkinson, who leads the team in receptions, second in the NFL by receptions from a tight end with 48, or Swift has 47 receptions, second on the team, and then first of any running back in football. And so those guys are active in the screen game, design routes for them. I mean, checkdowns are part of their game, but it's not the majority of their game. Unlike some other teams, they're the focal points of that offense, and so those are the two guys you really have to watch out for, especially now that the number two running back Jamal Williams is out of this game for the Lions, and so it'll really be DeAndre Swift, who's not had much success as a runner, but in space, on screen, stuff like that, option routes, he's really had a lot of productivity there. And so I think you look at the off-ball linebackers for Pittsburgh, Devin Bush and Joe Schobert, those guys have to play really well because they're going to see the bulk of handling Hawkinson and Swift and how they handle those guys in space and hopefully make plays on the football. That's going to be critical. I think for Pittsburgh, their defense, they can't blitz much in this game because of that screen game for Detroit. I think if you try to blitz and get over aggressive, you can get burned by that screen game, by that counter. And so that's the approach I think rushing four, having that four-man rush get home more often. Quarterback mobility will be less of an issue with Jared Goff as it was for Justin Fields. And so, winning situational football, getting pressure. The Lions, O-line's getting a bit healthier, but it really comes down to containing Swift and Hawkinson. Do that, minimize those guys. And Pittsburgh's defense does a good job of taking away the top guys, although it's usually the receivers, not so much the running backs and stuff like that in terms of the pass game. So we'll see how Pittsburgh stacks up, but that's going to be the challenge for the Steelers this weekend. Defensively, the Lions have had a lack of success as well. Their run defense, grades out a bit better than their pass defense, but both aspects of their unit has struggled. Their D line's probably the strength of this team. It's a very young defense overall. They have some guys up front. Former Steelers seventh round pick Nick Williams, McNeil is a good plugger. So is Michael Brockers. But I think what you'll see in this game is a lot of runs to the perimeter, and that's generally not what Pittsburgh does. But they have done it more, and I think you'll see some receiver runs with Deontay Johnson, maybe Ray McLeod in this one. If you look at the Eagles game, for example, they had a lot of success running the football to the edges on some of those receiver jet plays or reverses or end arounds and things like that. And so you've seen Pittsburgh be able to do more of that over the last month or so because they've been able to get into a better flow and rhythm of their offense. Or playing with a lead more often, and Canada's kind of able to run his offense more. And so I don't think obviously they won't run it 10 times in this game, but I think 3 to 5 times, as you saw against the Bears with Claypool, Deontay Johnson, those guys getting involved in the run game, the perimeter run game, the jet plays, the end rounds, and things like that. And then, of course, Najee Harris should have a good game. I would expect this whole line to bounce back and play better Sunday than they did Monday against the Bears. And then for the Steelers' pass game against this Lions secondary, not a whole lot specifically to note other than just how poor the Lions have been. Some of their pass defense numbers aren't as bad just for the simple fact that teams haven't had to throw on Detroit too much because they're always playing with the lead. Detroit's faced the fewest amount of pass attempts this season because they're just playing from behind, and some games have gotten really lopsided and teams just run the clock out. But the number that really sticks out to me is the Lions are averaging or allowing 9.3 yards per attempt this season. That is a historically bad number, the worst number so far since 1962. We'll see if that number holds. Of course, it could change throughout the rest of the season, but they've really struggled in allowing consistently chunk plays. And it's not that they're allowing a ton of like 40 plus yard plays. There's a decent number of that, but it's not even close to being league worst. Again, slightly a product of them not being thrown on a lot in general, but it's just consistently they're getting burned. They've had some injuries there as well. They got a couple guys to watch out for. Tracy Walker's a good safety for him. He's been really active in the run game, blitz game occasionally, but I think they just struggle with communication. It's a young group, like I said. Defensively, I mean, to say that D line's got some youth or some veteran kind of presence to it, but beyond that, it's a lot of young and new faces for them. They've really had a tough time communicating consistently. They blow coverages too often. They really have a tough time distributing bunch and stack sets. So guys will run open because they don't know how to pass off the bunch or the stack, or how to banjo a call or stuff like that, and communicate properly. So they really had some issues there. So I think Canada is going to go heavy with the stack sets, with the bunch formations, and just kind of get guys naturally open, and force Detroit to try to communicate and pass things off effectively. I really don't think they'll be able to do that consistently throughout this game, and that should leave a Deontay Johnson, or somebody running free over the middle of the field. And then the Lions pass rush, not a whole lot to fear. They're only 14 sacks this season, only one player with more than 2 sacks on the year. They've had some injuries at that position to kind of lose some of their top guys. So their pressure rate's the worst in football. They're blitzing a good amount. Watch out for the linebackers coming. Watch out for the nickel or corner, or safety, I should say, coming from the field side on a blitz, because they need to get more pressure because that front four is just not doing much of anything for them. They stuff the run, again, at a decent middling level, but they really don't get a lot of pass rush juice with that team. So Pittsburgh's O line, on paper at least, should have a pretty good time this weekend. So overall, I know I've downplayed the Lions quite a bit. They are 0-8, of course, but they played some close games. They've had two really heartbreaking losses at the end of the game off of field goals. And when you're playing a new opponent, a new coaching staff, a team you don't know too well. Of course, Pittsburgh did play Detroit in the preseason, but that's preseason action. You don't get a great feel for who they are. Those games can be close, as it was against Chicago. I think the Bears are a more talented team than Detroit, but for Steelers fans, winning comfortably is rarely ever a thing. So my prediction in this one, Pittsburgh wins, but it's relatively close, 30-23 over Detroit. So Pittsburgh cracking the 30-point mark for the first time all season. But I mean, if it's a blowout for Pittsburgh, great. But it's hard to really expect that, even in games Pittsburgh matches up on paper much better, just because that offense has not been explosive enough. They can't put a nail in the coffin and really put teams away. But Pittsburgh is the better team overall, and so they should come away with a victory and move to 6-3 in first place in the North on the season. So that's my preview of the game. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, we'll recap this one after the game and throughout the rest of next week. Appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe if you guys have not done so already, and we'll talk to you soon.